Hello, hello. If you would like to stick around to test out and do a comparison of the new 2024 Tomoe River Paper from Sanzen or the old paper, then stay tuned. Y'all, so I thought I would go ahead and do a pen test and comparison on the Tomoe River Paper from Sanzen, which is the new manufacturing company that essentially bought the old Tomoe River Paper company out. They are changing the paper slightly, and this is the new paper that will be in the techos for next year. It says the paper is changing for the original, the cousin, it says planner, I don't know what that means, day free, and 5-year techo. So maybe the week's planner, I'm not really sure. So let's go ahead and check it out. So what I have here is the little sample that they gave us, and you can see on the back that they did this little write-up that talks about how the paper is changing, and that essentially they are making adjustments. And it says, excuse me, that it's lighter at the same thickness and even more resistant to ink bleeds, and adjustments that make the writing surface even more crisp. So let's check it out and see what we think. Okay, so I have the original paper, Tomoe River Paper. I know for a fact this is the 100% hasn't changed original. It's actually a TRP book cousin from 2019. So I'm just going to use this one, because I know it's the original paper, and 2, because I have this book that wasn't completely used up, and I just think it's easier. Okay, so let's start with the feel. So I would say, just by feeling it, the old paper is just a tiny bit toothier feeling. The new paper does feel smoother. So that's just kind of like first impression. So as you can see, I have an array of different things here we're going to test out on both the papers and compare them, and so on and so forth. Thickness wise, they really feel the same to me. Yeah, I mean, possibly the old paper might feel a tad thicker, but it's so barely noticeable that, yeah. So let's just start with a color dot on both of them. And actually what I'll do is I'm just gonna go ahead and sample out a few different things, and then after that we'll go ahead and check like the back sides of the paper and so on and so forth. So I figured I'd just do some of the markers that I have that I've randomly selected first. Oh, that one's kind of poop. That one needs to go in the trash. It's like, no, I don't want to. Okay. Let's get a different one, because that one is no good. Okay. Let's try this one. Okay, that one's fine. I'm a little curious. That actually dried pretty quick. Okay. And then we'll use kind of like some of these more markery penny type things. This one is a Tombow. And then we will do a Copic. I'll kind of just do different things so that we know the difference between what ones that I used. Okay, one more. We will do a multi-liner. I mean a mild liner. I don't know why I said multi. Mild liner. Oh, my brain. Okay, and last micron. Let's try out a micron. Okay, now let's look at the bleed through on these, and or none. There's definitely ghosting, but it's pretty minimal. Like almost non-existent. Sorry, I'm trying to... So you can see with the light going, you can see obviously with the light going through it, but when you look at it straight on, there's definitely none. Let's look at the old paper, and that was the Sanzen. The old paper is pretty much exactly the same. So, all right, so they pretty much are very comparable that way. Let's do more like a, let's do a smear test. And I'm just literally gonna write smear and, okay. And then make sure I'm in frame. So slightly less smear on the new paper. Slightly. It still smears, but this is the Sharpie S Gel, and if ever I'm going to have a pen that smears, it's going to be this one, because it's pretty smearlicious. The Toolie is about the same, and yeah, those are pretty equal. We'll try a Sarasa. And I'm purposely doing these immediately because, y'all, like when you're writing, that's, you know, you're gonna end up running your hand through it like instantly when you're writing. So, especially lefties. So those are the comparisons between the old paper and the new paper. So there's a little bit more smearing in the old paper than there is in the new. So that's good. I have all these other ones, but I'm not really sure I need to use them. This is the TRP pen. It's Hobonichi pen. I just wrote TRP for the fun of it. Yeah, though, I mean, that doesn't really smear at all. And this is a Sarasa Dry. About the same. They really feel, it feels like the same paper when I'm writing with a regular pen. Let's try with a fountain pen. Because I have heard that the fountain pens are a little bit different. So let's see. I just inked this one, so it's it just going to give me trouble. Okay. Let's try one that I know is working. Try that again. I know this one's working. So, let me just cap this. One thing I can definitely say I'm noticing already, just writing hello with a fountain pen without even like doing much of anything else. Can you see the difference in shading between the top and the bottom? This is definitely more flat and it's not seeming to pick up the shading of the ink quite as much as the old TRP was. That's just kind of like right off the bat, first impressions. Oh, do you see that? So I wiped this hello with nothing and I wiped it in the old paper and look. Now that has me curious. Does this new paper dry quicker? That's pretty wet, so okay. So they both smear pretty wet pretty quick, which is what I'd expect. I mean, I expect that on pretty much any paper. Now, we'll give it a few seconds and see what happens. But you can see that even smearing it pretty instantly, this one obviously did smear the new paper coming, but you can still read it. Whereas even though you can kind of still read that top one, it mostly smeared. So that's interesting. So let's go ahead and smear them both now. I'll use a different finger. So that one smeared some, and that one definitely smeared quite a bit. So the new Sanzen paper does seem to dry the inks a little bit faster. So that's the differences there. Can I tell? So the paper feels toothier to the touch. The old paper. Yeah, it really does. Barely, but it's like it's there. You can kind of feel that drag in your pen, whereas this is much more smooth. So the paper really is smoother. To me, it's not like a massive, huge difference, but it is, in my opinion, with a fountain pen, it is smoother. So yeah, that's interesting. Let's do a watercolor test and see what we get. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and test watercolor on the new Sanzen TRP. And I didn't pick a bright enough color, of course. That one's brighter. We will do that one. And for those of us that like super wet blobs, I will try and make sure it's nice and wet, just so that we can kind of see like what's my limit with this paper. Okay. So I have quite a bit of water down on that. And I mean, of course we all know and love the old TRP for the fact that it can take on a lot of multimedia with little to no issues. I'm just kind of trying to match the amount of wetness between the two just to kind of see where does that land me. Okay, so now in true form, like I would, I'm gonna zap it with my heat gun because I want to see how it does. This one here with the Sanzen, let me get it in view. Get all this other stuff out of the way. The Sanzen, there we go, is already kind of drying on its own a lot quicker. I probably didn't wet it nearly as much as I did the regular Tomoe River Paper, but it is drying decently fast on its own without my help, but I'm gonna give it some help right now. Clearly I cheated and put way more water on. So let's sop up some of that just a little bit, because yeah, it didn't really dry. Okay, so we just want to see, like, when we're done, what are we talking? So that's kind of how much it crinkled with the water. But we still have the crinkle that we've always loved in the TRP. So that's the back of the old TRP, and that was very wet. Like, that was way more wet. So much so that it kind of like warped the page next to it. So, but kind of like looking at it now, it's less, it seems to me like it's less warped. The old paper with all that water versus the new paper with not as much. See how warped that is? Like down here. I didn't use as much water on this one, whereas I used a lot on this one. So I'm thinking that maybe the new paper is not going to hold up quite as well with watercoloring. Just kind of looking at it, it's also not really picking up the shading of colors quite the same as the old paper did. So look at this old paper. See all the shading with like, and I wiped away a ton of it, but you can kind of see like the pinks and the greens, and you can really see a lot more of the shading of the watercolor versus this one is a bit flat. You don't see it quite as much. You can see it a little bit like there. But for the most part, I'm not seeing it quite the same. So there's definitely some pros and cons. I'm feeling like my first impression of playing with this paper, and this is the first time I played with it. I hadn't taken this sample out and done anything with it. I'm feeling like regular pens and even, you know, markers, highlighters, and all that, I think it's going to perform really well. I do feel like it is just, I mean, such a touch, but a touch smoother than the old TRP. And I do feel like it's drying a little bit better. It did a little bit better than the old paper on the smear tests. So I do feel like it's drying a little bit better. And as far as the fountain pens, I feel like there's kind of some like give and take. I feel like it's drying better and it's a little smoother to write with. It doesn't smear quite as much as the old paper, but it also doesn't show like the sheening and shading quite as much on the new paper as the old paper. So there's going to be, in my opinion, probably a little bit of a trade-off between the new and the old. What is my final take and opinion on the new Tomoe River paper from Sanzen versus the old paper from Tomoegawa? I'm not entirely sure that it's gonna be, for a large majority of the people that use Hobonichi, I'm not sure that it's gonna be noticeable enough for you to know the difference. For those of us that have gone to Tomoe River paper very specifically for specific reasons, y'all are going to notice a difference, and there's going to be some things that you like about it better and some things that you like about it less. So it's going to be kind of a trade-off, I think. Do I think that this ruins Hobonichi? No, I don't. I wasn't really sure, to be honest, because I was like, well, if there's not going to be any TRP in the hobos anymore, then I don't want it. But honestly, it's really not it's not like a deal breaker kind of change, in my opinion. So that is my opinion. I certainly welcome y'all's. Have you tested it? If you got an A6 or an A5, I believe, I don't know if they came in the weeks because I think I only got 2 of them. Then these little sample packs were in them, and take it out and play with it. Test it. Tell me what you think. These are the little sample packs that they sent, so that you can try them out. Tell me what you think. Personally, I am not noticing a big enough difference for me to feel like this is a deal breaker. It's a little depressing for someone like me that really enjoys fountain pens, that it doesn't seem to be sheening and shading quite as much as I'm used to. You know, but still, that's not a huge deal breaker for me. It's not that much of a difference, but it is a difference. So take that for what it is. But I am curious to hear what you guys have to say, what you are noticing as differences. Is there something that I missed that I need to be aware of when you were testing it that you found out? So definitely let me know below in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!